Hi, Ginger fans. So back with the track-by-track analysis of Wallflowers. This time we have Sleep of the Righteous. Now, just before we get into this, I would like to take a quick thank you opportunity to say the guys in Ginger are just unreal. I mean, they shared my Mediator analysis whenever that came out a day or so after the actual video dropped, and that was enough to blow my mind. But I've since found out that they've shared on their YouTube channel and their stories, and also on their official Instagram page, uh, more of my analysis from Wallflowers. So the fact that the guys in Ginger are watching me sit and talking about their music and enjoy it enough to share it, you guys, it still just feels weird to me. Like I'm looking at myself in a little monitor here, and yet I'm talking to the guys at Ginger. I don't know. It's crazy to me. Thank you so much. This album is insane. I'm sure you've gathered that that's what I think already after hearing me sort of wax lyrical about it. But, I mean everything I say, it's amazing. Also, thank you very much to you guys that are commenting below, liking the video, subscribing, all that stuff really helps kind of give my channel more presence on YouTube, and kind of get the word out there, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so as we say, without further ado, after 3, 2, 1. Guys, for Christ's sake. Oh my God. Right. Um, so one of the things we've been talking about throughout, song by song, with exception possibly to the three singles, because, there was a big gap between those. But, this is, in terms of reaction videos, you guys have been watching this Wallflowers reaction series. I've been fairly consistent with this, so these are kind of close in my memory, as opposed to like previous Ginger ones I've done, then I've done other bands in between. I haven't done any filming of other bands. In fact, believe it or not, the only music that I have listened to is Ginger since I started this Wallflowers thing. Even in my daily life, I've been listening to audiobooks and podcasts and so on like that. I'm not listening to music. Um, so that's not a conscious effort to ignore music. I'm not even sure. I haven't really thought about why that's the case, because generally I have music on all the time. But I thought it was kind of important to qualify what I'm about to say by saying that. Because of all the songs we've just talked about, in my memory, I do feel like I have connected certain sections of most of the songs, apart from maybe the singles, with other bands. Pantera, Faith No More, some of you have talked about Gojira. I have not really listened to much Gojira before, so that's not a connection I've made. I've seen one or two people mention Mastodon. I've listened to quite a lot of Mastodon, and I don't really hear Mastodon in this. But I guess I can see why you would. I've seen Mastodon live as well. Like, I actually really like that band. Possibly their more recent stuff you might be referring to, because I've listened to most of their old stuff, and I don't really get Mastodon vibes from this. But it's clear that people that are listening to this are getting vibes of other bands. Vibes, So just, oh, that sounds a little bit like that. Sounds a little bit like that. For me, probably the strongest one was Pantera. Despite the music not sounding like Pantera, there's a similarity with the groove and all the different things. I'll not go into it again. I've already talked about it. Right. This song has felt like the most Ginger sounding song of all of the non-video ones from this album. Hopefully you know what I mean. So this run from track 1 to 2 and so on right through. This one has hit me as the most unique sounding song, and that whenever I was sort of in the middle of that, immersed in that world and listening to it, felt like, my brain's doing the usual thing and trying to understand, what's going on and listen to all the different components. But there was only one moment in that entire song where I thought of another band. And even then, it wasn't a particular song of that band. It was somewhere near the end, I got Ghost Reveries era Opeth vibes for about 3 seconds, and then it disappeared. Apart from that, I didn't get any feeling of any other artists, which I love. And actually, I don't know if it's because of that or not. And maybe when I go back through this, who knows? Because when you listen to a song a second, third time, it's always a different experience, isn't it? But right out of the gate, I'd be nearly inclined to say this is my favorite one so far. As a whole, there are probably other moments in some of the other songs that I would put above certain moments in this. But as a complete, from the start to the end, this one felt kind of special to me, So anyway, I've also had a couple of people saying to me that they think that, based on a comment I made a few videos back about, once I've finished this reaction series of every song on Wallflowers, I'd said that what I will do in my spare time is listen to the entire album from start to finish, right through. Because if I wasn't doing this, sitting talking to myself on the camera and uploading it, that's the way I would listen to this. I wouldn't stagger out the songs in the manner that I've done here. The reason I've done that is in order to give you a genuine reaction. I've had to space them out because I just don't have the time to film it from start to end in one go. I'm just too busy. So I will do that entire listen on my own, because what's the album's probably going 40 minutes or something, half an hour, 40 minutes maybe. So I'll listen to the start to end, eyes closed, earphones, the whole thing. And because I've said that, some of you have requested that I possibly give up an album review, like an overview video, where I just maybe give general thoughts to the whole thing. I think I'll do that. I think another aspect of that, what I'll maybe do is give my sort of top moments. You know, it's something I haven't done before, but don't forget I have to edit these videos before I bring them to you. So I end up hearing the song, you know, a few more times before it finally goes on YouTube. And in that process, you know, by the time I publish it, you know, I probably heard the song 4 or 5 times because I have to double check that I'm not talking absolute garbage all the time and cut bits out. So the song's in there in the video. You know what I mean? And there have been some moments in those songs that have struck me again as complete gold. That's maybe something I'll do at the very end, like my top 5 Wallflowers moments or something, or maybe top 10. You know, yeah, I'm a big nerd. I like that stuff. That's the kind of videos that I would watch on YouTube. You know, somebody going into particular scenes in a film and, you know, their favorite bits or their favorite moments and all that kind of stuff. Particularly somebody who knows what they're talking about. You know, I wouldn't profess to do that because I enjoy films, but I didn't study it. So anyway, and just before we get into the breakdown, I want to also take an opportunity to say thank you to all you guys that have been donating through the Buy Me a Coffee link and also been buying my music, you know, purchasing from Bandcamp. You know, that's amazing. Thank you very much. That is what supports this channel, because all of these reactions are all copyright, so I don't earn anything from this, you know, and yeah, you're getting adverts and all that, but that's all being collected by the managers and all the rest of that. So if you do enjoy what I'm doing and you want to help support me, Bandcamp's your best bet. Go to Bandcamp, because you can buy that for the same price of the coffee and you're getting all my music, you know. So thank you very much to everybody that is helping support the channel that way. It means a lot. It's analysis time. Wish me luck with this one. It's more complex. Here we go. Very unusual production going on at the very beginning. I have to say that whenever I first pressed play, I thought there was something wrong. I got my volume really cranked here, like, you know, and I was like, is this like a dodgy rip of the song or something like that? So they've obviously intentionally got that grimy kind of thing happening at the start. Even the snare kind of sounds weird, even though it comes up. But once the band kicks in, you know, the production goes up. You know, I guess that's just a wee bit of fun in the studio, isn't it? You know, just to help probably give more of an impact when the full band comes in. There's something, for some reason, I was getting images of like abandoned warehouses and like, you know, in wasteland, just these big empty, vast like airplane hangar type things. Like, you know, there was something industrial and also because of the echo and the reverb and stuff like that there, it actually put those images like photographs into my head that don't exist. No, I'm sure you get that as well. You know, with some of you that have a touch of the madness like me. Yeah, I mean, so I love the way they give us this sort of like a jammed out kind of feeling of that riff. You know, there's a lovely energy within the band. It has a really live energy kind of sound, despite the fact it's probably not live recorded. You know, it's probably all drums and guitars probably being added. There's a real live vibe off that. There's an energy off it that I really like. And it seems to me that based on the way they normally write things, for the most part, that's the type of riff that would normally been cut in half and we'd have got to the singing earlier than that. I can understand why they haven't done that. It just feels nice to sit in that. It certainly felt like a longer played out intro than some of the other songs. And, you know, whenever I heard the repeat coming in, it's like, oh yeah, well, we're going to cycle this again, you know, which I don't really expect from them, you know, but works here. There was a fear to live and sleep, with just a thread upon my arm. What if I simply let it in? I close my jaws, and take the blow. So also a little bit more repetition than what I would come to expect. Non-repetition and repetition. So you got the riff, dun da 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 dum, space, drums. Da, 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 da. There's the extra notes. So the second time is a variation on the riff. Third time, I was kind of ready for something else, and even the fourth time, but third and fourth were 1 and 2. Again, it comes back to that thing I've already previously talked about, and gushed a little bit over, which is the predictability versus the unpredictability. So essentially, the band has managed to find a way in their songs to always keep you guessing. Where other bands would do one or the other, normally you'd find a band would do the same riff 4 times. Or maybe the fourth one, they've got a little tail on it to change it going to the next section. Most of them will keep that, it's okay. But Then you get the other side where when Ginger is on full Ginger mode, each phrase finishes differently. So you'd almost expect a band like that to do that all the time. So I love the fact that Ginger is bouncing back and forward between more typical structures of the riffs, not finishing every single phrase with a brand new bit of information. Sometimes they will repeat it. That in itself is unpredictable when you've heard the fact that sometimes they do change it all the time. So, do you know what I mean? You're keeping you on your toes with whether you're going to get it again or whether you're not going to get it again. And the effect is the same once you know that. Because once you're expecting it to change and it doesn't change, you didn't expect it. And the opposite, when you're expecting it to come back and it doesn't come back. Brilliant.
What if I simply let it in? I clench my jaws, you take the blow. As I lay, I slowly fade away into a place of inevitability.
That's one of the more odd sections of this album so far. But what is standing out to me as kind of unusual in this album so far is the use of the major chords in there. So typically, sort of, it's a bit trite to say this, but there is there is truth to it in that the major sounding chords definitely sound brighter, and as corny as it sounds, happier. Generally, whenever you're teaching somebody who's a beginner and you start explaining major and minor chords, those are the kind of words you use. Occasionally I've had ones that have kind of blown me away. You play a minor chord, expecting them to say that sounds sad, and I've had the old one that said sounds mournful, and you're like, ooh, deep. Do you notice that despite the use of the major chords in there, and it's still, you can detect their major chords because they have those connotations of bright and airy. To me, it sounds a little bit more dreamlike, a little bit more ethereal. It doesn't sound happy, So that's why words like that don't really work for major and minor, happy, sad, unless you're possibly dealing with songs that don't have much emotional substance, then those descriptions might suffice. Or like if you're teaching a beginner to tell the difference between one and the other, it's useful there. But I love the fact that they've found the way to use the major chord in there without it sounding like we've just gone happy, happy, happy. It definitely doesn't sound like that. There's also a nice dynamic shift in that section, which would share some similarities with the most recent song, Pearls and Swine. There was that whole sort of section, sort of 3/4 of the way through, where, they completely changed the energy. So another sort of significant moment on the album, I think, in terms of those sort of chill out moments before they kind of hit us again. We're back into that aircraft hangar. I'm sorry, if I'm putting images in your head that you don't want, but I don't know why that is. For some reason, it's just abandoned aircraft hangar.
As I lay, I slowly fade away into a place of inevitability.
So latch on to that bass hook there to kind of get you through that a little bit. I actually found that the singing threw me, whatever way she was placing her accents there. It's possible by the time I'm editing this video, I'll have figured it out. But we have to keep things moving here. You know, you don't want to see me scratching my head over this. That's not going to be, I'm sure a lot of you have already left at this point, you know. I'd really probably troll quite a lot of you here because, you know, for you guys that don't make it even halfway through the video, you know, you don't know what I'm doing. By the time I get to the halfway point, I could be running around here bollock naked, jumping around, climbing off the walls, rubbing shit on the walls. You could be missing something really exciting. You just don't know. You could have missed the most enlightening thing in your life. You know, I could have dropped some incredible pearl of wisdom. Or I could have spent 20 minutes trying to find out a time signature. Let's go on.
And why is it happening to me?
We've talked about that pretty much every song. There's that polyrhythm back, our old friend. I think that section's in 7, by the way. That sounded like it was in 7/4 to me. So, quite a lot of the album so far seems to have been in 4/4, with a lot of heavy syncopation, but, you know, generally 4/4. Let me just double check that, but that sounded like it was in 7. 5, 6, 7. Yep. Lovely vocals.
It appears from the darkness. My body burns. It is present as I softly sing into the dream. The door is opened. I can't resist. I count the blast upon the bedroom table.
So there's some repetition there being used. It's not as through form composed in this one. You know, we're getting some of the same components from previously. It's interesting to me because on that very first listen through, it didn't stand out as obviously to me as, oh, that's that bit again. It seems clearer now on this second run through. I mean, we still have half the song to go here, really. But my impressions certainly were from sort of halfway one point that most of it felt new. So we'll see if that lives up. That was my first impression. It definitely felt like it was just new section after new section. Drumming. Right, lovely fills. Also have to say, just a little moment on the toms there. You know, I mean, it's not exclusive to Ginger by any means, but isn't it class when you got your headphones on and you can hear the tom fill, you know, spanning that, you know, as everybody does that really with production, you know, but I just love do. You can hear that passing across, like feels like it's going through your brain from one ear to the other. Love that. I wonder what they've sampled to get that big. You know, I remember seeing, you ever watched any of those sort of classic albums where they go into like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, there was Queen ones and Deep Purple and all that, and they talk about a particular famous album and all the recording techniques used. One of the things came to mind there was, I think it was on one of those programs where they talked about Judas Priest, in order to help get the snare sound. You know, so you hear the snare. They also recorded in on top of that the sound of cutlery. So they filled like a big, you know, like a big tub full of cutlery and just dropped it on the floor, and that then they put that in on top of the snare hits, you know. So I love that kind of stuff. And if I can take a moment to kind of promote my band, I don't do that very often. I know I talk about my sort of instrumental stuff, but I do have a band as well. We have a few things on our channel. The band's called DIAMIR. But just because the sub-bass kind of sound that in that led me to think of Judas Priest cutlery, that has then in turn led me to think about one of the songs that we did. And during the lockdown, I took one of the songs that I'd written for the band. We basically stripped it down to an acoustic version, and I was playing a comb, playing glasses, and I was actually using the cutlery sort of thing, you know, had the microphone up to try and use throwing cutlery into the thing. And I made a video for it, one of those videos with lots and lots of screens. You should check that out if you want a wee bit of fun. The original video had like an American Psycho kind of feel like that, you know, so it'd be class if some of you guys want to head over there and take a look, you know, a bit of fun. But yeah, the actual production of music, you know, it can be really, really fun. You know, you're in the box and you're using plugins all the time. It was fun, but you know, my daughter's 2 now, and there's like baby toys in the house. And I found like a little xylophone of hers, and I used part of that in the lockdown video to come up with something. And the thing was, it wasn't even tuned properly. It was just a cheap piece of shit xylophone. It wasn't like when you played a C on it, it was like somewhere between a C and a B. So I had to play it and then go in and digitally move it. I had to retune it in the sense within Logic to do it. You know, the amount of effort to go to that for like 20 people to see it or whatever, you know. Anyway, more you guys should head over and check that stuff out. Come on, I dare you. So yeah, what are they using for that sub? Please tell me they're, you know, throwing a bin off a building or something like that and recording it. Instead of it just being a little sample in their DAW, you know, just press a key. It could be that, but who knows? You hear that? It fits in with that theatrical, I think of it as like theatrical element of songs, where it's extra stuff that doesn't need to be there, but makes the recording far more unique than if you go and see the band live, because you can't replicate that stuff live.
I'm not a fire. Let me burn. Let me burn. My silent shadow. The black as black. The white as scream from ear to ear. I silent style like a snake. I feel too.
How amazed. I would love to hear just Vlad's room, you know, room mics from the drums. I'd love to hear Vlad's isolated tracks there. You know, there's a great room sound on those drums. Love that space in there. Great cymbal work.
As black, the white as scream from ear to ear. I silent style like a snake. I feel two thumbs upon my back. Visions spark
New section.
from my eyes, like a forest flame.
That bass. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. You know, it's really driving the bass there.
Visions spark before my eyes.
You know, those are the kind of things, you know, you just take that for granted. You know, Eugene's going da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You take it on its own. Yeah, it doesn't sound exciting. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But think of the difference, the way that would probably typically be played. Because that would be a more typical way of doing that groove. And letting the drums do all that. But I love the way Eugene's found a way to help drive the music on in a way that I haven't really heard so far on the album. Lovely.
Visions spark before my eyes, like a forest flame. I am ready.
Love the way Vlad, it's one of the things I've noticed with Vlad's playing is halfway through a riff, he's very good at building the excitement from that sort of open hi-hat groove to just sort of subtly getting into the crash. You know, he has those midway points. So much dynamics in his playing. Doesn't just go from that to da 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 da, you know, da 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 da.
Like a forest
Lift it up.
flame. I am ready to confess in every crime I never did.
It's the same chord progression from that industrial bit back in the airplane hangar we're talking about, you know, but now direct da da dum. Da-da-dum. So again, using some major chords in there. Not everything is major in there, by the way. You know, there's more extended chords. So it's back and forth between dissonant and all. But it's also semitones, and it sounds like da-na-na-na, you know, so notes beside each other, which in itself is very dissonant. It's also those kind of chords, da, da, which I kind of relate to science fiction soundtracks. For some reason, the minor second interval, da, da, once you start orchestrating that and just playing about with those harmonies, it gives a very otherworldly kind of sound, and it always fits perfectly with images of like the universe, you know, black space and like a little spaceship coming through it or whatever.
And why is it happening to me? I'm full of life, but I cannot breathe.
And you were waiting on me to do that. I was nearly going to do it a minute ago. I thought I'll not do it again, but I can't help it. There's that polyrhythm again. That's what that. You need a meme here.
Scream out, shout, don't want to sound. My body lost its structure. I swear, lost it to believe in God. If you could give me rapture.
I love the way that it's almost like Vlad is intentionally avoiding playing on any beat there. There's a lot of the snares and even the kicks are delayed or early ahead of the downbeats there, you know. So I mean, he's keeping the downbeat in place so we can still follow everything, but it's almost like he's intentionally in that section trying to avoid playing as much as possible on the downbeat.
Lost it to believe in God. If you could give me rapture. The life from terror of time's dream. Eternal minutes feel so real. I plead my savior to release me. The savior I come with. What has just happened to
That's a beautiful melody on that. Really panned.
the world? I plead my savior to release me. The savior I come with. What has just happened to me? I was dragged to hell, but now I'm free.
Ah, superb. So thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you again soon.